Hello, hello, hello. And this day is the day we're reacting to the high street. Yes, the high street. I haven't seen the high street. I mean, I do watch these videos. They're pretty educational, to tell the truth. I like the fact that he does a good lot of research on some field businesses. Look, I'm gonna be honest with you. When it comes to businesses, we're always evolving, and the high street evolves very rapidly. There was once a point in time where it would be 10 years before you see a big collapse in the high street, and because we're moving so fast these days, it's every 1 to 2 years you have a chain that was literally on their knees, needing to be bailed out, and when they bailed them out, they've been bailed out and been liquidated. You know, stripped naked and liquidated for nothing, but sold for £1. That's what happens. You start to see, there are always these shops that you see and you just walk past, but you used to go into, but you just don't anymore. Anyway, yeah, I saw this about the lottery and I thought, let's just react to this video about the lottery. Because I was in a situation where we almost won a lot of money. And, you know, I'm going to tell you what it could do to someone's mindset. But luckily, it weren't in the millions. And we made the money that we lost. But at the time, man, we could have been doing with that money.
Statistical impossibility. The odds of winning the national lottery jackpot are about 1 in 45 million.
Okay, that is true. 1 in 45 million, but let's put that in perspective now. Are you actually gonna buy one ticket? Who sits down there and think, I'm gonna win the lottery? I'm just gonna buy one ticket. That's what it means by 1 in 45 million. If you buy 100 tickets, there's 100 in 45 million, right? Could you not just one ticket? You're 100 tickets in. But still, the odds are still against you. But you got more better odds with 100 tickets.
To put that in perspective, you're statistically more likely to be canonized as a saint than you are to win the jackpot. Yet, people play, and occasionally, people win. When that money hits the bank account, the assumption is that the problems stop. But for a specific subset of winners, the deposit marks the beginning of a complete financial and personal collapse. Economists and psychologists have spent decades studying this phenomenon. They found that sudden wealth doesn't change who you are, it acts as a magnifier. If you're bad with money when you have £100, you will be catastrophic with money when you have 10 million. The liquidity allows you to make mistakes at a speed and scale that was previously impossible.
See, the problem with this and where he's right is because these people haven't earned the money. That's the situation, that's the problem. When you've earned it, you know the value of the money. So you most likely won't spend it. I've been in a situation, I've been on YouTube for over 15 years. And I've earned hundreds of thousands. And I've known the blood, sweat and tears that goes into making videos. Staying up to 3 in the morning editing. Just to make the subscribers happy. And to be paid at the end of the day. And I was getting paid handsomely. But the people around me, some people found out I was doing YouTube, man, they were looking for handouts. And I was like, yo, I'll help you out once, but that's it. Because I ain't gonna be handing out tens of thousands of people, tens of thousands of pounds to people, and they don't pay it back. And the way the world works is when people think that you can make loads of money very fast, everyone just comes out the woodworks, asks for money, but they have no intention of paying it back. You get these people like, oh, we got a business deal, lend us some money. No. Don't fall for that. If you ever make money, anyone coming out, any family members or friends coming out the woodworks with these business prospects, no, tell them to piss off.
We're going to look at 5 people who beat the 45 million to 1 odds only to lose everything.
Experience contracts simplified with
adverts. I hate adverts. but they pay my bills.
Example of this phenomenon is Adam Lopez. His story is notable not because of the amount he lost, but because of the terrifying speed at which the dream turned into a medical nightmare. In mid-2025, Lopez was a forklift driver living in Norfolk. He stopped at a corner shop to buy a drink and, on a whim, picked up a scratch card. He went back to his car, scratched the panels, and realized he had just won £1 million. He later told the BBC that he was stunned into silence, shoving the card into his glove box as if it were contraband. His bank balance jumped from £12.40 to £1,012.40 overnight. Lopez immediately did what almost every financial advisor screams at you not to do. He quit his job. He removed the structure from his day-to-day existence before he had a plan for what would replace it. He bought a Range Rover Sport for himself, a Range Rover.
This guy is very silly. Yeah, you do need structure in life. Well, a lot of millionaires, they need something to do with them, so that's why they go into charity work. But see someone like Bill Gates, billionaire, but he don't need to work, but he needs something to do, a company to run, a charity to run. That's structure. Once you have structure, you end up just throwing the money away. And the thing about it, he won $1 million. $1 million is nothing these days. I'm telling you for a fact. £1 million is absolutely nothing. That'll disappear. By the time you spend money, you're not a millionaire anymore. You know what I mean? It is nothing.
Over Evoque for his mother and booked a first-class trip to Barbados. The spending itself wasn't the issue. £1 million can absorb 2 cars and a holiday. The problem was the lifestyle shift. Lopez entered what he later described as a 3-month party. He was burning the candle at both ends because he could finally afford the wax. It lasted exactly 12 weeks. By September, the physical toll of his new life caught up with him. He developed a blood clot in his leg, likely exacerbated by the sedentary, alcohol-fueled lifestyle he'd adopted. The clot traveled to his lungs, causing a bilateral pulmonary embolism. He was rushed to hospital, unable to walk or breathe.
So, wait a minute. If he never had the money, this would never happen. It goes to show sometimes this money could be a curse.
In an interview given during his recovery, he noted the grim irony of his situation. He had a bank account full of cash, but he was lying in the back of an ambulance where his net worth was irrelevant. If Adam Lopez is the example of a physical crash,
it's one of those things really, like no matter how much money in the world you have to look after your health. And a lot of people, when they see you with money, like, oh, you could buy this, you could do this, you could do this. No. A lot of people, like someone like Michael Jackson, he had all that money. And when people start saying, you could do this, you could do that, you start thinking you can do all this stuff to yourself. And you go under the knife and you start changing yourself and you get into more problems. Oh, look, you change your teeth, go to Turkey, or get your teeth done. Get some liposuction. You end up people like just dying under the knife because they're getting all these surgeries done that they didn't need to do. And if they never had the money, they wouldn't want to be done. They'd just be living their life.
Michael Carroll is the example of a total behavioral collapse. His story is the most famous cautionary tale in British lottery history, and for good reason. In 2002, Carroll was a 19-year-old binman working in Norfolk, wearing an electronic tag for drunk and disorderly behavior.
Makes you wonder how some of the people that win the lottery, you kind of wonder like, why they're so... I guess it's the devil's work, I say. Sometimes I almost won. And I was at my wit's end at the job I was in, and things were really bad. I'll probably tell it afterwards, after we watch all this. But this guy, he just seemed like he was a nasty piece of work to begin with. And for him to win the lottery, dang. Like, man, I guess it ain't God giving these people money. Because you think about money, it's man-made to control people into a system. Keep you working like slaves, so you have to pay into certain... You know what I mean? The most happiest people are people without money. Yes, money can make you happy and smile, but once you bought a gold chain or a Rolex, then what? What is it going to do for you? You have this stuff, you're sitting down around your wrist with a Rolex, and people are, oh, you have a Rolex. Like, if you're so shallow, you need to show off to a bunch of nobodies on Instagram. That just shows what type of person you are.
He bought a ticket with the last pound in his pocket and won £9.7 million. The British press immediately branded him the Lotto Lout and the King of Chavs.
This guy was okay. I said he was a bad person, but when I remember hearing about him when I was playing, and I remember thinking, nah, I could never win, but you know, things happen. But I remember looking at his story, and a lot of bad stuff happened to this guy. It was almost like the money was cursed. Someone killed his dogs. I think his sister got murdered or someone like that. It was crazy. A lot of stuff happened to this guy. And I think he gave away most of the money to family and friends, and it still didn't help them out. But you know, it's crazy. So the 10 million disappeared in no time.
Carroll leaned into the persona with aggressive enthusiasm. Carroll bought a mansion in Swaffham called The Grange. A sensible investment on paper, except he turned the grounds into a demolition derby track. He bought old cars specifically to smash them up in the back garden, racing them around the property at all hours of the night. The noise and chaos destroyed the property value not just of his own home, but of the entire surrounding area. He spent thousands a week on drugs. He claimed to have slept with 4,000 women, spending a fortune on brothels and escorts.
Brothels and escorts. Man, that's not the way to go when you win the lottery. But I guess people want to indulge in things they had no way of indulging into. But drugs, escorts, as I said before, it's the devil's work.
But the real drain on his finances was the leech effect. When you win that amount of money at 19, you become a magnet for hangers-on. Carroll was known for his extreme, chaotic generosity. He would hand out bundles of cash to friends who would disappear the moment the money stopped flowing.
When the money's gone, it's weird, because you know, when you got money, people are around you. When the money's gone, you look around, you're like, where's that person? Where they gone? They're not there anymore.
By 2006, the cracks were showing. He was jailed for 9 months for fighting in public after terrorizing his neighbors. By 2010, the money was gone. He had to sell the Grange for £600,000, a massive loss on his initial investment.
That's still a good amount of money. But then I guess, look,
Declared bankruptcy, he had managed to burn through nearly £10 million in less than a decade. But after losing it all, he moved to Scotland. He got a job in a slaughterhouse, then a biscuit factory, and eventually went back to delivering coal and logs. In recent interviews, he claims to be happier now than he was with the millions. He works 7 days a week, lives in a rented flat, and says the money was a cage he built for himself. While Carroll
rented flat, so I guess the 600,000 he sold the property for was just to pay off debt. Now, I never came into 10 million, but I'm not in a rented flat. This guy has, I remember thinking about this guy and thinking, he clearly had some good people around to advise him, because when you win the lottery, they give you advisors, and the advice is like you can live off the interest. But this guy seems to have like dipped into the interest. Like if you're wise, you can just live off the interest. You got 10 million, living a decent life. You can go on holiday every month and you can live off the interest. What the hell has this guy been doing?
Carroll lost his money on chaos, John Magennis lost his on a bad business idea. Mar Guinness was a hospital porter living in Motherwell. In 1996, he won £10 million. Unlike Carroll, Magennis was a regular guy who wanted to help his family and his community. He gave £3 million to his family and £750,000 to his ex-wife. He bought a nice house and upgraded his lifestyle. Everything was stable until he decided to invest in his passion. Magennis was a die-hard fan of Livingston Football Club. He pumped £4 million into the club, acting as a guarantor for their loans. He saw himself as the
Boy, oh boy, this is not good. Because like, when you're talking about football clubs, you're just burning money. You know, you need to have other investors. You can't be the sole investor into a football club. Because look at someone like Ryan Reynolds. It's not just him alone investing into Wrexham. There's other people involved. We don't hear about them, but it's Ryan Reynolds is the main big name. Same with KSI. KSI, he's into what, Dagenham and Redbridge. So he's investing into them. But I don't think it's him alone with all his money is him and a bunch of other people. He's just one of the investors into the club. If this guy put all his lottery money into this club, God help him, because he's just going to be burning money. So when they come up with debts, he needs to pay for the debts for the club with his money if he's a guarantor for the club.
The savior of the team, using his windfall to propel them to success. This is a common trap for lottery winners. They assume that because they have capital, they're investors. But capital without expertise is just liquidity for someone else to drain. Football clubs are notoriously difficult businesses to run profitably, and
look what happened to Manchester United and the Glazers. Remember them? They couldn't wait to get rid of those people because they weren't making any money from the club. They were like in debt. And they thought they were going to get some money from them, and it turns out they weren't.
Livingston was no exception. The club ran into severe financial difficulties. And because Magennis had used his personal wealth to guarantee the club's debts, the club's creditors went after him. He ended up...
I didn't say that. I'm watching this right now, but I knew what was going to happen.
Having to sell his properties to cover the debts. By 2009, the man who had £10 million in the bank was essentially penniless, forced to rely on charity and benefits to survive. If Michael Carroll was the example of what happens when you give millions to a rebellious teenager, Callie Rogers is the tragic case study of what happens when you give it to a child. In 2003, the National Lottery allowed 16-year-olds to play. Rogers was a 16-year-old checkout assistant earning £3.60 an hour when she won the 1.875 million jackpot. She remains the youngest jackpot winner in UK history, and her story is the primary reason that record will never be broken. At 16, the brain is not equipped to handle the psychological pressure of extreme wealth. Rogers spent her money on the things a teenager values: acceptance and appearance. She spent £18,000 on breast augmentation surgery, hundreds of thousands on designer clothes, and endless nights partying. But the most damaging expenditure was, once again, the generosity tax. Rogers estimated she spent £500,000 on gifts for friends and family. She bought cars for people who couldn't drive and paid for holidays for people who, years later, wouldn't speak to her. The money made her a target. She was assaulted by 2 women in a nightclub who demanded money, leaving her unconscious with broken ribs and smashed teeth.
Another problem with this as well is like, when you win the lottery, I'm gonna be honest with you, just keep your ass quiet. Don't tell no one. This is the main problem then with all these people. They made themselves known. Once you make yourself known, you become a target. If I won the lottery, I wouldn't tell a soul. Cause then I wouldn't be I can just go about my business, meet people, talk, go on holiday. No one would know anything. The minute you put your face out there, you become a target. People just see money signs when they see you. They say, well, that's the guy who won the money, won the lottery. Right, let's go and talk to him. Let's go and be his friends. And that's what happened to these people.
The mental toll was severe. Rogers spiraled into depression, leading to suicide attempts and serious drug use. She later stated that she felt like a walking bank machine, unsure if anyone actually liked her or if they were just waiting for the next payout.
Imagine being able to build an app with your name.
I hate these adverts, but everyone gotta pay the bills.
2021, years after the fortune was gone, Rogers was banned from driving after crashing her 4x4 into a hedge while high on cocaine. During the court hearing, it was revealed she was on universal credit benefits. The £1.8 million was completely gone. However, Rogers' story has a bit of a redeeming arc. She went back to school to study social care and became a nurse, finding value in work that had nothing to do with her bank balance. Her disastrous experience also forced the government's hand. Because of what happened to Callie Rogers, the minimum age, Ryan won £6.5 million. At the time, he was awaiting trial for handling stolen cars. Ryan earned the nickname the Lotto Lag because he became the first jackpot winner to serve a prison sentence. 9 months after becoming a multimillionaire, he was sentenced to 18 months in prison. He sat in a cell knowing he had a fortune waiting for him on the outside. When he was released, Ryan bought the Hollywood caricature of luxury. He purchased a £1 million mansion with a swimming pool, a tennis court, and a hangar.
A hangar? Can he fly helicopters?
Bought a helicopter, he bought a private plane, he bought a fleet of cars including a Ferrari.
But can he fly the helicopter? A lot of this stuff, this is the thing about it, you have to really think about the future, because like even when you're a footballer and the top tier football, you need to think about the future, because when you start investing in these houses, like a house with a swimming pool, underfloor heating, when the money dries up, it costs a lot of money to upkeep a house. At my house, I got underfloor heating and all sorts, and it costs money to keep the underfloor heating on. A lot of money, especially if you have it on in winter time. If you got a swimming pool, you need to have the swimming pool cleaned, and there's heating for the swimming pool as well. That costs money. So you're looking at maybe £5,000 for underfloor heating in a £1 million house. Underfloor heating, the swimming pool, maybe about 5,000 just to keep it all running. I remember my bill went up. Yeah, I had the heating on. Winter time, I had the underfloor heating on. They told me my bill was 2,500 for the month. I was like, no way. And they said to me, so what did you have on? I was like, I had underfloor heating, I had the heating on. It's like, the man said to me, anything with a heating ligament, your electricity bill is going to go through the roof. You know, he said, you might as well just put the heating on. You put the underfloor heating on, it's going to burn your electricity up. You put, and I had this like a heating system in the living room as well. That was not... That wasn't the heating, but that was had ligaments inside of there as well. Man, that's like running at like £6-7 an hour. I had that on for the whole day. And then you got the gas as well. You cooking gas cooker, that costs money. Normal electricity, man. It's all, yeah, everything added up. The lights as well. You have all the lights on. You know, I couldn't believe it. I'm in a little small house. I ain't no mansion, so imagine what a mansion will give you.
Ferrari, a Bentley, and a BMW.
Then you got the upkeep of the cars as well. When you have a car, the minute you drive the car out, depreciates in value. So that's already burning through
All
money.
fitted with personalized number plates like LEE1 and LEE2. The spending was compulsive. He later admitted to handing out cash to strangers in the street, desperate for the dopamine hit of being the rich guy. The millions eventually evaporated through a combination of bad business ventures and theft. He lost money on failed investments that he didn't understand.
This is another problem, like when you do have money, people want you to invest. Oh, I got this investment opportunity, you make loads of money. And all these people, their whole mindset is to try and rob you. And I'm pretty much sure, yeah, people saw him with the money and they thought, I'm on YouTube, people see my channel doing well. I get all sorts of emails. I can help you boost your views and algorithm. Pay me 4,000. One guy even photoshopped himself with a picture of Mr. Beast. And I'm pretty much sure it might have been AI or something. He had himself a picture of him and Mr. Beast. It's like, I work with Mr. Beast. I was like, but I must pay you $4,000 for video ideas. Like, you know, I just throw whatever. Let's throw whatever that at the wall and hope it sticks. You know, because like, yeah, I'm not Mr. Beast. You know, my channel, not this channel, my other channel is doing okay, but I ain't Mr. Beast, and I don't think I ever will be Mr. Beast. So I ain't gonna be paying no one no $4,000 for video ideas. And I think this is what happened with this guy, where he had people come up to him and say, I got this opportunity where you can make loads of money. Well, just give me 90,000. And the people just run off with the 90,000 and said, oh, the business kind of failed. And like, the business never failed. He didn't quite understand the business. And what people do when they see people who aren't quite up to speed with certain businesses, they try to talk really fast. I had someone try to talk really, really fast, and you have to try and defragment what they're saying. They try and use big words to confuse you, and you sitting down there thinking, oh yeah, he knows what he's talking about, he's got the big words. You just nod your head. And what they do, they try and talk fast to disorientate you, and then they say, oh, just sign this and this and this and that. You need to have a lawyer by you. You need a good lawyer next to you. Don't sign anything. that you don't understand. And they'd be like, it's a win-win situation. It's like, no. It's not.
And he claims his housekeeper stole a significant sum. By 2010, the £6.5 million was gone. Ryan hit rock bottom harder than most. He spent 2 years homeless, sleeping in a sleeping bag on the streets of London. Today, Ryan lives in a small flat in South London and works in painting and decorating. In interviews, he describes the lottery win as a curse.
The fact that these people don't even have a house to their name is embarrassing. Of all these lottery winners, they lose. The one thing I decided, not even decided, the one thing I promised myself I will never lose is my house. You know, one thing I'll never lose is my house. These people don't even have they spent through so much money, they didn't even have a house to their name where they can live, to call their own. They're living in rented flats. That is the true embarrassment of it all. To have so much money and not even get a house out of it. God help us.
He claims he's happier now, calling himself a spiritual billionaire, having realized that the money stripped him of his actual life. He traded a £6.5 million prison of gold for a sleeping bag and somehow found the sleeping.
It's really sad that of all the money he gave to people, not one of them offered him a damn sofa to sleep on. And this is what I looked at in life, really. Like, I like to help people out, but I don't help people that much. Because when push comes to shove, I could not go to anyone and ask for a sofa to sleep on. And now how much money this guy had came into, that one of his friends remembered that he gave them money, or said to him, hey, you can crash on my sofa for a month or two until you get back on your feet. This guy's sleeping on the floor in a sleeping bag. He was once a millionaire. This goes to show how generosity isn't really the best for people with money. You really have to be tight-lipped.
Bag more comfortable. When we look at Adam, Michael, John, Callie, and Lee, it's easy to judge them. It's easy to sit there and think, I would be different, I would be smart, I would invest. And perhaps you would, but the data suggests otherwise. The problem with winning the lottery is the speed of the transition.
Very true. These people haven't adjusted to the mindset of having money.
Building wealth slowly allows you to build the character necessary to keep it.
Again, yes, building wealth doesn't necessarily bring you the character to keep it. I'm not just repeating, because I'm going to be honest with you, like, if I had come close to winning the lottery, and it was 2010, and it was 5+ bonus, at the time I kind of kicked myself that I didn't play the £10, because it would have gave me £110,000 back then. Because it was 5+ bonus. That's when the lottery was an easy way to win. I mean, it wasn't easy. You just, as this guy said, still 1 in 45 million. But my mindset was not to win the lottery. My mindset was £100,000. That would do me. I was living at home with my mom. I was doing some dead-end job, and that was the money I was almost gonna come into. £110,000 straight into my account. No tax, nothing. You know what I mean? And then we didn't play, and the numbers was on the paper, and I sat down thinking to myself, what if? What if? But here we are today. We're on YouTube. We've made over 110,000. We've got ourselves a house paid for. We're making videos for fun. Like, this video is not for me to make money. It's just, I just like reacting to things in my spare time, and we're doing okay. We're not broke. We have ways of making money which isn't too stressful. And you know, at the end of the day, I kind of thought to myself, look back at things, I thought to myself, like, if I won the 110,000 back then, who would I be? Because since 2010 to now, but I think YouTube wasn't paying anyone until 2010 or 11ish. That's when they had the partner program put in. So I didn't have any way of making money through the internet. I just had to do a job. when 2011 came and I started paying people, that's when I went into YouTube. And I started to make a bit of good money here and there. And yeah, I started to see the value of how much money, how much time it took to make the videos. And each video I made a couple thousand from each video until we made over 110,000. I saw the value of how much effort goes into making that much money. That's why when people were asking me for money, I said, oh, hell no. But if I had won 110,000, yeah, I could have been one of those people like, well, I never earned it. You don't see the value of how much, how hard it is to. Like, none of these guys had earned £1 million. They won it. So don't see the value of the money. That's the problem.
You learn the value of a pound because you had to work for it. You learn how to manage assets because you acquired them one by one. Lottery winners skip the tutorial level and go straight to the final boss. They're handed the keys to a kingdom they don't know how to rule.
If these guys had a second chance at winning the lottery, would they do anything different? And some of these guys are grown men, and they need to ask themselves a question. If they had another a chance to win the lottery, how would they have changed things? Because when I lost the 100 and something thousand, and I've gotten over that, I thought to myself, okay, this is what we're going to implement so we don't end up like these guys. We ain't going to win $1 million, but we got a good amount of money. We're going to buy a house, and we're going to have some sort of structure where we can bring in money, but we're not doing no dead end job. Because I remember reading about these guys in 2010 when I was playing, and I was thinking, well, if this guy can win, I could win. And as one guy, as they said at the beginning, 1 in 45 million. I will be honest, I was spending my entire paycheck on lottery. Luckily, the money we won was good enough. It was a couple of hundred. It weren't the 100,000, but it was a couple hundred. So the money that we was spending, which was our entire paycheck on lottery, because we lived at home. So like, when we got paid, we would just buy GTA or whatever game was out, and then we'd have the rest just gamble it because we had no bills. But when you have bills, you kind of think differently now, because I don't really play lottery like back then, because I got bills to pay. But yeah, I decided this not to. I remember reading about these guys and thinking to myself, no way am I going to end up like these guys if I come into any money. No way.
They're suddenly surrounded by sharks, predatory financial advisors, friends with business opportunities, and family members with debts, while lacking the defense mechanisms that wealthy people usually develop over decades. The National Lottery actually has a dedicated team of advisors who try to prevent this. They offer legal advice, financial planning, and media coaching. But you can't.
Here's the thing as well. None of these people actually take the legal advice. It's advice. You don't have to take it. But if you do take it, you'll be better off. But a lot of people, they do dip into the actual money. They start. You have to spend the interest. They don't do that. They dip into the actual money. That's where these guys go wrong. You can splurge out here and there, but don't go wild. And these people went wild. I guess you only live once, and now, he's lived a lifestyle that Daron dreamed about, and that's the end of the party. But then again, it's almost like a dream. You don't have it anymore, and he's gone back to square one. So maybe 10 years of living a millionaire lifestyle, only to have it all gone. Where if he was wiser, he could have had that. He could have generational wealth, and he could have had that to the day he died. But instead, it's all gone. All of them. I'm not saying, not even it's a lot loud. All of these guys, all the money's gone. Makes you wonder how life just keeps kicking people sometimes. But as simple. I almost won, and yeah, it's possible. You gotta believe. You gotta keep playing and believe. But I wouldn't. At the time, it was £1, so it wasn't much for me to spend like £20 on lottery. You know, now it's like £2. Yes, it's £1 extra, but you know the prices are more. So in my day, playing now, if I had played a 1 now, 5+ bonus would have made me a millionaire. And right now I'm in that level, I'm in a part of my life where we are comfortable enough to, you know, not be stressing out too much about bills. So £1 million would do me just fine. I wouldn't go crazy like these guys and buy mega mansions. I'm living pretty basic, you know, bills ain't too high, and you know, you just have to live humbly. But once you start living this excess lifestyle that you don't need to live, that's when the money starts to come down on you, and you start to think to yourself like, where are these bills coming from? You realize that you've been overspending. You have people around you telling you, oh, keep buying this, buy that, buy this, you can afford this. And it's not coming out of their money, it's coming out of yours. But because you have the money, they expect you to spend it. And anybody who sits down there and tells you to keep spending money while not helping you make money and asking you for money, that's a person you don't want around you. You cut that person off fast. I had people around me who was telling me, oh, you could just buy that. Oh, spend money on this. And each time it's more money being spent when I could easily not spend that money. And it's all like, oh, you just do a YouTube video here and there and you get paid a couple hundred. People's mindset is like, with YouTube and everything, people and the algorithm changes. 1 minute you're flavor of the month, next minute you're gone. You know, that's the way the world works. Some people have jobs, some people's jobs disappear. Some people have £1 million, £1 million disappeared. You have to line yourself up for the future and think to yourself, how are we going to survive the future? And none of these guys looked beyond the money they had. They just thought they had the money, it was always going to be there. And when they lost it, they're looking at people in the face like, hey, remember me? They're like, yeah, you paid for my holiday. Goodbye. Anyway, like, subscribe, and I'm out.